Welcome back to Mets Daily. I'm your host, Jake Brown. It's a new week, Monday, November 18th, 2025. And the big news of the day is Josh Naylor going back to the Seattle Mariners on a 5-year deal, somewhere between $90 to $100 million. Let's say it's 100 as we record this late Sunday night. 5 years, $20 million a year. A fair deal for Josh Naylor, for both the Mariners and for him. I think he gets a good number, a good AAV. Mariners get fairly good value for one of the best free agents on the market, and clearly he wanted to be there. When you get a deal done this early, you know Josh Naylor probably could have got maybe more money from another team. Josh Naylor is 28 years old. He's a winner. He constantly goes to the playoffs, and he was fantastic for the Seattle Mariners. Absolutely tremendous in the 54 games he was there. 9 homers, 33 RBIs. He had 299 with a 341 OBP. Naylor was a fantastic get by the Mariners, and they said, we want this guy back. He was a gutsy player. He had a good postseason, hitting 340 with 3 homers and 5 RBIs, and they got their guy. And now you wonder, what does that mean for Pete Alonso? Now, Alonso's going to get paid. Josh Naylor, a couple of years younger, 28. Pete's 31. Naylor will be 29 next season. So this makes me think that Pete's probably going to get 30. Now, will he get 35 for 150? Will he get, 4 for 120? It feels like if Naylor's going to get $20 million a year and Pete, at 38, 125, he's going to get $30 million a year. And, I think Scott Boras is going to use this as leverage here. And this is unfortunate, honestly, for the Mets. I would have really liked Naylor as one of my top options. And, I know a lot of people tweeted one less suitor for Pete Alonso with Seattle. I think this is, hurts the Mets more than it helps the Mets. And I get it. Even for the people, who want Pete Alonso back, that they're going to say this helps them. But, this was the next best guy. So this hurts. I would have liked Josh Naylor in the Mets. So we'll see what Pete's number is. This shows you, and now that Naylor's off the board, the Mets ain't waiting around. They can't wait for Pete. So if they're going to do it, it's got to happen, before 2026. It can't happen January, February. It's got to happen November or early December, because if Naylor's already off the board, I think you're going to see names start to go this week, and we'll see what ends up happening. But one down. Where do the Mets pivot if they don't go to Pete Alonso? And I've mentioned his name before, Yandy Diaz. I think the free agent market with Naylor off the board isn't the greatest. We've talked about Cody Bellinger the other day. That's the next best guy. That's the guy who's probably going to get the next big bag outside of Pete Alonso. It'll be Alonso the most, Bellinger probably 2, and Naylor 3 at the first base position. But on the trade market, Yandy Diaz is a guy who's going to cost you just $12 million in 2026. He has a vesting option for 2027 that will go to $13 million with 500 plate appearances in 2026. So if he stays healthy in 2026, he'll make 13 in 2027 and 12 in 2026. That is a good number, and I know he's older. I understand, but this is your bridge first baseman to potentially Ryan Clifford or another young player in the farm system, Ryan Clifford being the number 1 option because he is the next first baseman up in the pipeline in AAA. So, and at that point, Yandy could play a little third as well, and Yandy could be your DH. So I understand Yandy Diaz is 34 years old. He'll turn 35 next August, but he clearly hasn't slowed down, having a couple of the best years of his career the last 3 years. Yandy hit 300 with a 366 on base, 25 homers, 83 RBIs, and I know a lot of people will say, but look at the stadium. Okay, well, look what he did the years prior, not in that stadium. 22 and 78 with a 330 average. He won the batting title in 2023 with a 410 on base. So Yandy Diaz is very intriguing. Better defensively. He's not a Gold Glover, but he's a solid fielder. So Yandy Diaz in a trade, what would it cost you? I don't think it's going to cost like Jet Williams. I don't know if it would cost that. I would think they'd be interested in Mark Vientos. Maybe it is Brandon Sproat, Mark Vientos, and a lower level prospect to get it done for Yandy Diaz. I know a lot of people might say, well, that's way too much. Well, he's a good player. I think a lot of people sleep on Yandy Diaz and say he just had a good season because of the minor league ballpark in Tampa Bay. And I don't think that's the case. I think he's a really good hitter. So if Pete and the Mets don't come to a deal, I think you got to think about a trade for a cheap first baseman at $12 million for as good of a hitter as Yandy Diaz is not a lot of money. And I would think the Rays and the Mets, who make deals, feels like every year, the Jose Siri deal last year, they always find a way to make a trade in the offseason. This could be the big Mets-Rays trade, getting Yandy Diaz. Andy and Martino said if the Mets keep Jeff McNeil, maybe he goes to first base. Listen, if Jeff McNeil is the Mets' first baseman next year / on this roster, you have every right to, scream at Stearns, scream at Cohen, because that can't happen. One, I said McNeil shouldn't be here, but no, I don't even, like Andy Martino even uttering the fact of Jeff McNeil at first base makes me sick to my stomach. No Jeff McNeil at first base. As you start to look at the other names on the first baseman, free agency list, if it's not Cody Bellinger, if it's not a Pete Alonso, a name we haven't talked about because I don't think the Mets will go down this route, but, they could do worse. Like Jeff McNeil at first would be worse than if you went out and signed Paul Goldschmidt to a one-year deal. I think this is kind of like a last resort. I think Miguel Andujar and Paul Goldschmidt would probably be kind of last resort options, Ryan O'Hearn being another one of them, where you would be underwhelmed, but if they did everything else right, like say they traded for Byron Buxton and they signed Alex Bregman, or they traded for Ketel Marte and, signed Cody Bellinger or to play center and Goldschmidt plays first, it would depend on the other moves. Like they would have to have a kick-ass rest of their offseason, bringing Diaz back for me to stomach Paul Goldschmidt. I think Paul Goldschmidt, he, talk about run prevention. He's still good defensively. He's 38 years old. Yes, he's on the older end. He will turn 39 next September. I get it. Goldschmidt is older. Still a solid defensive player. He started the first half incredibly with the Yankees, and then he kind of fell off a cliff. 10 homers, 45 RBIs, 274 average, 328 on OBP. But, another guy that could be your bridge to Ryan Clifford or someone else. So I'm not in love with it, but we have to think about other options. And when you look at the first baseman list, guys, Bellinger, yes, I would love him. Ryan O'Hearn, that's another last resort. Josh Bell, no thanks. Rhys Hoskins, no thanks. Miguel Andujar, another kind of last resort, more of a third baseman. Carlos Santana, no thanks. Justin Turner, no thanks. He's 40 years old. Wilmer Flores, no thanks. Ty France, no thanks. Mark Canha, no thanks. I mean, that's it. Dom Smith, no thanks. So Goldschmidt is on that short list of free agents that you would consider signing if you went out and got a great center fielder, you got a great second or third baseman, you got a great DH, or you got a great left fielder and moved Nimmo to DH. It would take 3 big boppers for us to be like, all right, I'm fine with Paul Goldschmidt 1 year, $10 million. Because he is good defensively. He's a veteran. He's good in the locker room. Had a good first half for the Yankees, but didn't have a great year, but had an okay year. So let me know in the comments below, would you sign Paul Goldschmidt? Make sure you smash that thumbs up on this video. Follow me at Jake Brown Live. Guys, no show tomorrow on Tuesday. I'm in New York. When I get back, announce why. I was in New York, and I'll announce on social media. So no show tomorrow, but, I will hop on somehow, some way if there is a big Mets move. Like if the Mets make a big signing, we will do an emergency episode. But for now, no show tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. We'll read a couple of your comments from Friday before we go. Appreciate it. Keep on leaving those comments, folks, and keep on following me at Jake Brown Live on all social media. James says, I agree. Get rid of McNeil. Let Williams or Acuna play. Second, let Carson Benj play center field. Sign Cody Bellinger so he could play first and alternate with Benj. Guys, you got to start spelling these things right. In the comments, and sign P for the right price, because all right, there's too much going on there. Arcade Perfect Views, great counterpoint. Thank you. Roman J. Diaz and Alonso will return. The only other free agent signing will be a starter. The rest of the stars Stearns will do in trades and building depth like he's doing with minor league deals. I disagree, Roman. I think they're going to do more than that. I think you got to have a little more faith than that. Jarrett Robinson says, dude, I don't think the Mets are going to be able to move McNeil. That TOS surgery kind of screws everything, even though they're saying he'll be ready for spring. Seems unlikely teams will bite. I think a team will bite, Jarrett, because I think the Mets will eat some of that $16 million. I think the Mets are going to do whatever it takes to move Jeff McNeil. And if it takes eating $8 million, the Mets will eat the $8 million. So I actually think McNeil will be gone. And maybe it's just ho-hum that the reports that teams have called the Mets, but I do think there's interest, and I don't think the Mets are going to ask for a lot. So we'll see. All right, guys, let's go Mets. Naylor's gone. Sucks. I know a lot of people want Pete. I think Pete maybe becomes more realistic now. I think Naylor was the next best guy, but still names out there. Goldschmidt, not great. Yandy Diaz would be a great option. Cody Bellinger's out there, would be a great option. I would think the Mets are more prone now to kind of be all in on Bellinger due to first base and positional flexibility, being able to play center, left, and first. So if Ryan Clifford comes up, okay, we move him to left, we move Nimmo to DH. There's a lot of mixing and matching you can do if you sign Cody Bellinger. Thanks for watching Mets Daily, everybody. We'll catch you in a few days. Keep subscribing. Keep smashing that thumbs up. Let's go Mets.